Good evening, Carol. Welcome to the 18th episode of The Indian Networker.
Hi, Sampath. I'm very pleased to be here.
Finally.
Finally. I love that video.
You like that video?
I'd like a copy.
It took me about a day to get all those photographs. I had to do a lot of research on you.
What the heck, yeah? Really? Talk about stalking?
I was going to say stalking, but she said say research.
You could stalk only so much.
So now you know you have to be very careful about your Facebook profile.
And I didn't, it's not as if I put up those pictures,
Yeah, you're
know?
tagged.
Uh.
Fantastic. Carol, you began 39 years?
You can say 40.
40 years.
You
So
can say
40 years
40.
you've been a journalist.
Yes.
Fantastic. Tell us, how did its journey begin of yours? Where did you start first? Your schooling, your college, and then how did you get into the big world of journalism?
I honestly wish I had a more interesting past to share with you. But the truth is, I got into journalism by accident when everything else failed. So then I got into journalism. I wanted to be a doctor, but of course I didn't realize that at that time, and subsequently as well, everything had come to me very easily, so I thought becoming a doctor was going to be equally easy. And of course, when I wanted to be a doctor, it had to be in the best medical college in the country, AFMC. And I actually got admission in AFMC. But I was in Bihar at the time. I'm a Bihari in the sense that I have been educated there. I was born there in Patna. I was educated there almost completely until the age of 21. With the exception of maybe 6 years, I spent all my formative years in Patna. And that's why I have a very soft corner
For Biharis.
for Biharis, yes. I mean, look, they're in charge of the whole country and they're pretty much in charge of Mumbai, right? Yeah, I mean, you go to Mantralaya and it's Biharis everywhere. So that's everywhere, in the IAS, in the IFS, not IPS so much, but they are everywhere. And once I realized I couldn't take the admission I was given because we were having a lot of problems in the university at that time, and exams were delayed by almost, I lost a year because of student unrest. So I couldn't get admission. And then I realized how shallow I was, because then immediately I lost interest and I said, I don't want to be a doctor. Now I'm going to start arts all over again, thinking, again, it's going to be very easy. And I said, I'm going to do literature because I could write and I could speak. That's one thing about Bihar, you have some of the best schools there in Patna. And I've never worked so hard in my whole life as I did for my BA in English from Patna University. And then somewhere along the way, my mother, who sort of pushed us into various professions, because she knew us very well, and she said, you'd better become a journalist. What else are you going to do? So I said, okay, Times of India.
Okay.
And I'd finished my BA. Then I came to I came to Mumbai. I chose KC College, 2 hours every evening, but the faculty was tremendous. And that's something I've kept with me throughout till the time we were able to start our own institute with St. Paul's. I've kept that. Faculty is everything. And then I got into the Times of India. And I thought, at that time, getting into the Times means I'm going to retire over there or I'll be taken out feet first. At the time when I became a journalist, you didn't leave the Times. You got into the Times and then you died there, or you retired.
They print your obituary.
5 years, 4.5 years after. Yeah, in advance. So 4.5 years after joining the Times of India, we found ourselves leaving for the first time. It had caused such a commotion. Nobody left the Times, and 4 people, reporters, and we left to start Midday.
Which year was this?
This was in 1979. It's okay. 1979, June. We left to start Midday. And then I was thinking, okay, I'm going to retire in Midday. At the back of my mind, I was always a government type, Yahan aa gaya to right till the end. Now nothing to worry about. And we found ourselves leaving again to start the afternoon. And then 7.5 years after that, when I had said, no, I'm going to retire over here, I went back to the Times of India, but not to the Times of India. I went back to the building.
Okay.
At that time, Times was beginning a Saturday paper called the Metropolis on Saturday. And we were introducing a new kind of journalism, you know, the new Saturday reading. And this paper was called the Metropolis. And a year after I joined, I became the editor. 5 years later, they shut that down. First time in my life, a newspaper that I was working in was shut down. But what happened was that this was a time of transition for journalism as well. And what we had done, maybe a little too successfully, was mossify the whole of the Times of India. Bring that Saturday reading, that slightly, you know, that casual approach to news as well, to all the newspapers. So then why would the Jains need Metropolis on Saturday? Band karo. And then after that, I went down to a department called Response Edit, Art and Edit. And they were beginning niche journalism at that time. And there were a few papers there. There were 3 or 4. But I was there for 11 years. And at the end, there was a time when I was sort of presiding like a deity over 100 of these things all over the country. But that was in the heyday of that niche journalism.
Which year was this?
From 97. And then I left the Times in 2009 because I retired from the Times. And then I was asked to take another look at the Afternoon, which was doing very badly at that time. So then I took a look at the Afternoon and I said few years. I was there for 5 years. Meanwhile, I was also teaching. I used to teach at St. Xavier's. I used to teach only at XIC. I couldn't stand the thought of teaching undergrads. But postgraduate students, yes, I would teach. And I realized that I really enjoyed it. And I was also becoming very concerned about certain trends that I had begun to see in journalism. And I began to hate the kind of people I was expected to recruit. You know, really, it was terrible. You know, you found standards. I was beginning to sound like my own chief reporter, you know, who would tell us in 1975, you all know nothing. There was a time when journalism was fine and fit. But we were working, we entered journalism at the time that Shyamlal was there. You know, Girilal Jain, Shyamlal, Frank Moraes had just died. It was the time for giants. The editors were giants at that time. Now you don't even remember who an editor is of any newspaper. How many of you all know who is the editor of the Times of India? The resident editors. Real editor?
Arnab Goswami.
The real, I rest my case. But you know, I had begun to sound like my own chief reporter. Boring. It's not the way it was. And then I thought, you know, I can really give back because I have been observing. I have been watching trends. And as I said, instead of screaming and shouting and criticizing all the time, maybe it's time now to get full time into this. So I gave them a year's notice. And then when they didn't do anything after that year, I gave them 2 months. And then I said 1 more month and I'm out. And I got out. And I don't regret it. It's hard, but now I am full time into both administering and teaching. Mostly administration right now. Teaching is a very small part of journalism. But that's also part of the new media, communication, you know, training methods that you have where very little academic time is sort of weighed against all the time that students spend outside. Now I'm at St. Paul's and really happy.
We'll come to that.
I'm poor, but I'm happy. You know, I'm really happy and that's how everything happened.
Is journalism a tough industry? Have you ever told not to report a particular story because of some pressures? No, you can't report this story. Has it ever happened to you?
No, I was like a bull in a china shop actually. And when the damage was done, it was already too late. You know, but 4 days after I joined the reporting department, and I have to tell you one thing that's very interesting, and I keep forgetting about it because it's like, you know, when I was in journalism, everything was superb. But I was the first woman reporter in the Times of India.
Wow.
Before I joined, they would not take women. And I had to literally manipulate my way into the system. Because they said, you know, women will not do night duty. And at that time, Bombay was really safe. It was a safe city, and I couldn't understand why. So I manipulated my way into the system, and I had friends, you know, within the reporting department, including the late Behram contractor and superb chief reporter named Sheshagiri Rao. At that time, the Raos were there. Now it's all Bengalis. Any Bengalis here? Now it's all Bengalis. But Arnab is not a Bengali. He's from Assam. But I managed to get into the reporting department. And after I came, a year and a half, 2 years later, began, you know, the kind of, like, I'm not going to call it an invasion, but after that, a lot of women started coming in. And it was great. It was wonderful to be also the only woman over there, because I was so spoiled, so pampered, so protected. And I was really happy because I insisted on doing everything that the men did. I didn't ask for any concessions, including night duty, which was a farce actually. You just sat there, put your feet up, slept, and then got up 1:30, somebody would wake you up and say the transport's down, you can go. But one day I looked out of the window and we overlooked VT. And I was ready to, you know, put my feet up, paperback and all in the hand, and I looked back and VT was burning. A train was burning in VT. And then I got out, I was really cursing, and I got out, and then I ran across the road, and it was at that time when Central Railway was in a mess. So it was the public, you know, guys with briefcases and still in their, like, sort of office suits, angry, sweating, and they were the ones who were pelting stones at the trains, and then somebody had set one rake alight. And I got in there, and, you know, they still respected journalists then, back then. And I had a little notebook and everything, and a bunch of guys came and surrounded me. We were talking. And suddenly I could hear, you know, thudding noises behind me, and these people sort of protected me, and then somebody started shouting, "Arey patrakar hai yahan," but in Marathi. Yeah? And the police then stopped, and I left, and behind me were two of my watchmen from Times of India, and one told me, "Abhi bas ho gaya, chalo, wapas." So I had to go back because the watchman thought this was ridiculous. Thank God I had got everything I needed. So then he took me back across the road like a recalcitrant child, and then saw me inside and told me, "Ab upar jao." And then I went and filed my story. But it was a different world, you know. At no point was I afraid. Of course, when I heard the batons falling on people's backs, I was a little afraid. But if they had hit me, it would have been a mistake. Now it's so different. You know, now you literally take your life in your hands because nobody cares. And in fact, the media is actually targeted in so many cases, whether you're a man or a woman. So I was really there in the golden age, you know. And when people ask me, "Did you have a problem being the only woman?" I'm so tempted to say, it was so difficult. I can't tell you, but the truth is, it was superb. Now it's probably much more difficult. But then I don't think gender has anything to do with it. I think everybody has a hard time today. And there's very little time to do quality journalism. So the kind of journalism that you are seeing, for a range of reasons, is not really the fault of the journalists. It's the fault of the system. It's lack of training. There's no time to train. There's no time to think out your stories. Okay, that sounds like complaints, right? Okay.
There are reports there's this report circulating earlier that each one of this media is already bought out. Like, you know, Times is owned by this person and Midday is owned by this person, all Benami accounts and all, and they're all being controlled, they're all being bought over. And a certain very big industrialist is also bought off the media right now, and they're controlling the media to report what has to be reported and not, you know, above and beyond the call of duty.
Okay, so this is what we are looking at even in journalism schools. What we do is we teach a tiny module about ownership patterns in India. Now, everybody knows who owns what, right? So I think that's clear. but it's always corporate. The thing is that it's not any longer media houses or, you know, barons like the jute barons. Have you heard the expression jute barons? Earlier it was all these jute barons who owned all the newspapers, and they were all connected through marriage or by blood. They were all connected. But now it is people in the corporate world who have made huge money, the really big bucks, who understand how important media is. And to own a newspaper has now become desirable. Not even a newspaper, but to own a media group has become desirable. In India, that is the pattern now. So to a certain extent, yes, bought up, but you will not find interference in the day-to-day running of the newspaper. It still happens that when there is unforeseen interference, it's still big enough to make news. So we are okay. I think quality has gone down, but you have quantity to sort of balance it. So to a certain extent it's true, but but the average journalist does not suffer the kind of interference that people imagine they're suffering.
Okay. What is the Vatican radio reporter? That I got it for you immediately yesterday. And how was the meeting with the Pope?
Vatican radio it's a network. Now it's backed up by a digital it's backed up by a website also. But it's a production house, and they broadcast every day. They've been doing it for the last 45 or 50 years. But for the last 30 years, I report from India, or at least the western region. But sometimes, you know, I have to pretend that I'm in Bangladesh or whatever. But I think all radio stations do that. It's straight reporting.
Okay.
What interests the Vatican are, you know, stories of maybe social injustice. They are very interested in like changes in government, because you have to remember that Vatican itself is a state. You know, it's like a nation on its own. So it's straight reporting. I enjoy it because it gives me one more platform. I don't do as much as I used to, but that is, it's a radio station which gives news like any other news station.
How was your meet? How did you feel when you met the Pope? That was the Pope.
How
no?
did I? Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
The last Pope,
The last Pope.
Benedict.
Benedict.
Yes. It felt good. For some reason, when I went, it was a 4-day conference on media. You know, the effect of media on church activities and how the church also impacts media. But I don't think they were very happy with what I had to tell them, because mostly I told them the church doesn't do enough to professionalize its own media handling. And now I think that is changing. So Asia was given a very prominent part at the conference. And I have to tell you that it was the Africans who walked away with everything, because they are so technologically, savvy in comparison. Africans, the Nigerians are superb.
Nigerians, I know they are very technological.
Yes. But that's a part of it.
Okay.
I mean, they are really so tech savvy, it's not funny. They made us look like also-rans in the way they presented, the way they spoke, their knowledge of media technology and the impact it has on the consumption of news was tremendous. But then we were chosen, people who presented papers were chosen to meet the Pope. Everybody sat around in the papal apartments. It was all very impressive. And then I met the Pope. I would have preferred to meet the present Pope, to tell you the truth. And then I shook his hand and he blessed me and everything. And I said, come to India.
He came?
No.
That's why the next Pope came.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me something about St. Paul's, your baby St. Paul's.
First you have to understand a little about St. Paul's itself. St. Paul's are the people, I don't know if anybody has heard of St. Paul's over here. St. Paul's Publications. I mean, as a Catholic, you would have heard of it. But St. Paul's Publications has these very nice bookshops, and they have them in 23 countries all over the world. But in Bombay, they have bookshops in Bandra, and I think in some of the suburbs. 4 years ago, I got a call to say that St. Paul's would like to meet me to talk about, setting up a journalism school. And the first thing I did was shout at them. I said, why would you want to set up another school? Why another journalism school? When you have, at that time, XIC was the best in the country. So I said, when you've got XIC over here, why do you want to set up another journalism school? Then I went and met them anyway. And I understood that this congregation is different from every other religious congregation. Like for instance, the Jesuits have education. And they're very big in college education. Somebody else will have an apostolate, a charism, we call it a charism, which is social work. Somebody else will have hospitals, but hospitals, education, social work. St. Paul's is the only one where the apostolate is media, and they haven't used it at all except in the publication of books. They've been here for 80 years. They've been publishing books. But look now, this book publishing business is going down. They need to look at something else. And finally, they took the decision to move into their true apostolate, which is actually media. So, luckily for me, St. Paul's are the kind of very forward-looking, very progressive. They start by setting up infrastructure. So normally in media schools, you will wait gradually for infrastructure because setting up media is very expensive. It's really capital intensive. But these guys, they give you the infrastructure and then they tell you, okay, we've given you all this, populate it, do what you want. So finally I came in and last year I joined them full time. What are we trying to do? In a city which already has good media schools, particularly, Don Bosco is starting up a very good media school, already has, but everybody has BMM. There's always room for more. We thought and we still think it. But now I think we are in a position of preeminence because St. Paul's, being the youngest, also has a very quick response time to the way media itself, media education is evolving. Every year practically we are re-looking at our course curriculum, it's a diploma, but we are re-looking at our course curriculum and changing things to suit what students really need. And because of this leeway that I get, this year we change it again. And I think St. Paul's is unique in that when I say we have an industry connect, it is 90% of its appeal. The fact that everybody, every member of the faculty, except for a couple of priests who teach ethics, but except for that, every member of the faculty is a working journalist. I'm not. I'm a retired working journalist, but the others are all working journalists who come in, give classes and go back to day jobs or night jobs or afternoon jobs. We want people who are in the media right now to come in and teach, because that's the only way you can preserve that freshness of approach that seems to be lacking in a lot of media schools. What we would really like to do now also is to set up our own undergraduate course, but that comes with its own limitations because any degree, any college degree, university degree is naturally circumscribed by the curriculum that they want you to do. So we are trying to find ways around this, but it's our dream actually to set up a complete course right from, I'm sorry, that's mine. We are trying to set up a complete course from undergrad level to a postgraduate level, which will really give you this hands-on experience of what journalism should be. This year we are also starting advertising, we are starting television journalism, and in each case the brief is the same. And you'll be surprised at the number of professionals who want to be a part of this.
They want to study?
No, they want to come and teach because there are plenty of people who think like we do. They also want to come in and teach. And we are providing them the infrastructure, the platform, the ecosystem where ideas are welcomed and change is the only constant. So even Sachin will be coming in, I think, in a bigger way. We've got Rajiv Masand, people who are, who have connect with the industry. So the last big thing that our students did was actually treat Sujoy Ghosh, who made Kahani, as a guinea pig. He came in and he was so nice. He allowed the students to spend 5 minutes on him. Each of them spent 5 minutes and interviewed him we have a professional studio. Open invitation to all of you. Come and see what you can do with the place. We are trying to monetize by also hiring out whatever space we can. But meanwhile, we are building because we've got huge plans. A building is already ready in Bangalore. Now we are fitting it out because we want to begin it over there. And then from here to Bangalore to who knows where. But I think the sky is the limit. This is new journalism, converged journalism. We are preparing for the new media personality because there's also advertising. We're bringing that same kind of professionalism to our advertising. We've got people like Agnello Dias of Taproot, who is notoriously reclusive but has come in with us. And what can I say? Just come in and see. And I think in the next 3 years, we are going to revolutionize the kind of people who graduate from our school. It's going to revolutionize the industry as well. These will be people who are so converged, so comfortable with technology, and who actually understand the way this technology is impacting the consumption of news. Am I talking too much?
No, I'm not asking any questions.
Yeah, okay. Ask next question. Sorry.
Do you think social media is useful for journalists? Do you think social media has killed journalism?
Not at all. I think social media is so important for journalists, but the way they are handling it, they haven't thought the whole thing through. So that is going to be one of our most important modules in this coming year. How social media is such, it is such an inherent part of what every journalist should be doing. Everybody thinks of social media in terms of marketing, but then we are all marketing ourselves all the time. And what's the harm if you're marketing your stories, and through your stories you're marketing the group or the company or the newspaper or the television channel that you're with? But it's going to be digital and it's going to be broadcast. There's going to be nothing in between. We are still going to teach print. We need to, because if you don't know how to handle a print story, how are you going to adapt it for every other platform that you are expected to adapt it to? But can you imagine what an exciting time this is for young journalists who come in and are able to tell every story using multimedia? Every story. The voice of the journalist, thank God, will again not be heard so much. It will be the voice of the protagonists in the story. It will be pictures, moving pictures, live pictures of what is actually happening. There will be maybe a little analysis. That's the way the story is going to change. That's why even the principles of writing are changing, not for the worse. They actually should be changing for the better. The only thing I'm worried about is how this new generation is handling language. Honestly, that's a big problem. It's a big problem,
SMS lingo. SUM
they
something.
have to learn, they have to learn that punctuation is important.
140 characters.
Yeah, and it's the hardest thing in the world to actually tell your story like this.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we still don't understand the power of the social media to give you a window into the world of news. It can only be your window. But now with video on Twitter, I see people maybe not even looking at Facebook anymore, never waiting, to sit in front of televisions. It's going to be so wonderful, everything in your hand. It's a super time to be alive and to be a young media personality. And that's another thing. I call them media personalities because this is one thing we've noticed. We've noticed this crossover all the time, with journalists trying out PR people coming into journalism, everybody leaving for television, then sometimes getting into advertising because they think they can write and that they can manage, if they tweet well, why can't they do, a line of copy? But you can't even tell now if you train as a journalist what you're going to end up as. So our training methods also have to embrace this. And at rock bottom, we have to remember that first and last, we're communicators.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now something about your family.
Oh, that's my family. My husband over there, Lon. There's just two. That's my orthodontist.
Please, everybody's
Glenn
orthodontist.
Mascari. Yeah.
There's a big line waiting, outside his clinic for appointments over there.
And I have a son who started out as a science student. He did physics, and then he said, I'm sick of science, so I'm going to do advertising. So then he did advertising. I'm just saying this so that nobody loses heart, And after 3 years in advertising, one day he came and told us, he was then friendly with the girl who would become his wife. So he said, so-and-so and I don't know whether I should say his name. My son's name is Lionel, like my husband's. But he said, Neha and I are thinking of taking this relationship to the next level. So I said, take. So then he said, okay, we want to get engaged. And then he said, oh, by the way, I'm resigning from my job because now I'm going to sit at home and study for GMAT. And this is after he had worked for 3 years, and I was thinking of putting my feet up and doing the Bahu bit, but didn't work out. And then after that, he did his MBA because he decided he wanted to do finance. I said, did you pull that out of a hat? First he's done science, then in arts, and now commerce. So he says, no, I really want to do an MBA in finance because I think I'm good at numbers. And I had to admit that he was, But what stopped him from actually indulging this, nobody knew. So then he did an MBA, and today he's a financial analyst. He's also married. And that's my family. It's a small family.
Happy family.
It's a happy family.
That's important.
Yeah. Most of the time, huh? Most of the time.
Okay. That I have to see your Facebook feed a bit,
Never talk about them even by chance.
Okay. Okay, so now we come to Quick Gun Sam. That's one witty answer. I'll ask you a question. You have to say one witty answer.
Oh,
it can be witty or it cannot be witty also.
Not witty.
Okay.
Truthful.
That's okay. Politics.
Stinking.
Times of India.
It's a good thing it's in my past. I would hate for it to be in my future.
Okay. Rahul Gandhi.
He's a poor little chap.
Narendra Modi.
Scary.
Okay. Somebody clap. That was not Hemang Jangla, don't worry. Hemang.
Okay.
Women's empowerment.
Badly needed. Well understood in this country. We are getting there.
Censorship.
What's that? I mean, it's an idea whose time has gone before it ever came. It shouldn't even be talked about.
Fantastic. Advice to the audience out here.
Come join St. Paul's. Come and do short courses. We are starting a whole host of things that people, professionals at any level or any age group, any demographic would find interesting. Like for the plus 60s, we are starting this, what you can really do with social media. Then we are also starting for grandparents, how to use your smartphone. Really use your smartphone. A lot of people don't know how to do it. But it's nice if we, plus we are starting a whole lot of short courses. And we like to see a variety of people. We are starting a film appreciation course, where you actually get certification. We are
adulterating, you were eating, that certification or some other certification?
No, proper certification. St. Paul's, very respectable.
Okay.
What?
So this episode is not sponsored by St. Paul's. I'd just like to clarify over here.
But you must come and see the place. That it's
so
forward-looking.
They've come for the
the others, I'm talking about the others. Please come and see.
I'll bring some more others next time over there. Okay, Carol, it was very entertaining, very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
that's my mug.
So there's one camera there first. Click na?
My God, he's really making me pay for my mug.
And there's one more here. Those are all the side profile photographs.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sampath. It
And
was. Now I can also eat.
you can also eat. And but this is something for you to indulge yourself.
Yeah.
It's a spa pack.
Wow.
So let's.
Thank you.
Sanjeev has given this from Spa Salon. After using
Thank
this, please
you.
visit his shop also. He's got a lot of stuff over there.
Okay. All right. I knew there was a catch.